The stars looked cold and distant as Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship. His scaled hands moved across the control panel as he studied the strange fleet approaching their space. 3 days ago, his long-range sensors had picked up the human diplomatic convoy. Now they were close enough to see clearly. "Report," he commanded his intelligence officer. The younger alien looked up from his station. 6 human warships, Admiral. Destroyer class. They have standard weapons and shields. Nothing special. He paused and pointed to the large display screen. But these other ships, they are huge. Vextar walked closer to the screen. The human fleet was spread out across space like a small city. The military ships looked normal, the right size and shape for warships. But the other vessels were massive. Some were twice as big as Kethvar battlecruisers. "What are those giant ships?" Vextar asked. "Civilian vessels, sir. Cargo ships, passenger liners, mining ships. The humans brought their merchant fleet with them." Vextar laughed. It was a harsh sound that echoed through the bridge. "Civilians? They brought soft targets to a military meeting?" He shook his head. "These humans are either very brave or very stupid." The intelligence officer brought up detailed scans of the human fleet. The military escorts have plasma cannons and missile systems. Standard defensive equipment. But the civilian ships? He frowned. "Sir, some of these cargo vessels have power readings higher than our own battleships." "Power for what?" "Moving freight." Vextar waved his hand. "Cargo ships need big engines to push heavy loads. That means nothing in a fight." He turned to face his crew. "Focus all scanning on their warships. I want to know every weapon, every shield generator, every weak point. Ignore the civilian ships, they are not our concern." Far across space, on board the human cargo vessel Steel Dragon, Captain Park Ji-hoon was watching the alien scans with interest. His ship was carrying mining equipment to the outer colonies. The huge industrial machines filled most of his cargo holds. But right now he was more interested in the Kethvar scanning patterns. "They are only looking at our destroyers," he said to his chief engineer, Lee Hyun. The 2 men stood in the ship's command center, watching data flow across their screens. Lee Hyun nodded. "Smart tactical thinking. In most species, civilians are weak targets. They probably think we are just merchants hiding behind our military." Ji-hoon smiled. He had been hauling cargo through dangerous space for 15 years. His ship had survived pirate attacks, solar storms, and asteroid fields. The Steel Dragon was built to carry mining equipment to places where a small mistake meant death for everyone on board. "Begin routine maintenance on the mining array," Ji-hoon ordered his crew through the communication system. Several crew members looked up from their workstations. They knew that tone in their captain's voice. "Sir?" asked the weapons officer. "We don't have weapons. This is a cargo ship." "We have mining equipment," Ji-hoon replied calmly. "Industrial fusion torches. Particle accelerators for breaking up asteroids. Rock-cutting lasers." He paused. "All perfectly legal civilian tools." Lee Hyun was already moving toward the engineering section. "I'll run full diagnostics on the particle beam systems. For safety, of course." "Of course," Ji-hoon agreed. "We wouldn't want any accidents." On other human ships throughout the fleet, similar conversations were taking place. Captain Song-eun of the passenger liner New Dawn was quietly checking her ship's defensive screens. They were designed to protect 10,000 passengers from cosmic radiation during long voyages between stars. Captain Kim Mi-ho of the mining ship Iron Mountain was testing his industrial cutting beams. Captain on one of the agricultural transport Harvest Dawn was reviewing the programming on his farming drones. None of these ships were warships. They were civilian vessels built for specific jobs. But they were human civilian vessels. And humans had learned long ago that space was not a safe place for weak ships. Back on the Kethvar flagship, Admiral Vextar was growing confident. His fleet had 43 warships. The humans had only 6 military escorts. The math was simple. "Sir," his communications officer called out. "The human fleet has stopped moving. They are holding position at the border." "Good. They are waiting for us to make contact." Vextar straightened his uniform. "Prepare a message. Tell them they will submit to inspection. Their military ships are outnumbered and outgunned. If they cooperate, no harm will come to their civilian vessels." As the message was transmitted, Vextar felt satisfied. This would be easy. The humans would see they had no choice. Their 6 destroyers could not fight 43 Kethvar warships. They would surrender, and the Confederation would learn everything about human military technology. What the Admiral did not know was that human civilian technology was about to teach him a lesson he would never forget. Across the human fleet, cargo ships and passenger liners were quietly preparing for trouble. Mining equipment was being powered up. Industrial systems were coming online. Farming drones were being reprogrammed. The humans were not preparing to fight a war. They were simply getting ready to do what they had always done, survive in the dangerous emptiness of space. And sometimes the tools for survival were more deadly than any weapon. The stage was set. Two fleets faced each other across the void. One side saw a simple military problem with an obvious solution. The other side was about to show them that in space, there was no such thing as a helpless civilian. Admiral Vextar stood tall on his bridge as the communication system activated. His voice carried across space to the human fleet with the authority of someone who had never lost a battle. Human vessels, you will submit to immediate inspection. Your military escorts are outnumbered and outgunned. We count 6 destroyers against 43 HFY warships. Comply with our demands and no harm will come to your civilian population. The response came quickly from the human destroyer Defiant. Captain Yoon Soo's voice was calm and professional. HFY fleet, we are here for peaceful diplomatic talks. We have no hostile intentions. Please allow us to proceed to the meeting point. Vextar smiled, showing his sharp teeth. Peaceful? You bring warships to our border. That does not seem peaceful to me. Our escort ships are for protection during the long journey through space. Standard procedure for any diplomatic mission. Your protection ends here, Vextar declared. You will allow inspection of all vessels, or we will consider this an act of war. On the human ships, captains were making quick decisions. Captain Yoon Soo opened a secure channel to the entire fleet. All ships take defensive positions. Form up around the civilian vessels. Protect them at all costs. The 6 human destroyers moved smoothly through space, placing themselves between the HFY fleet and the cargo ships. It was exactly what Vextar expected. The humans were trying to shield their weak civilian vessels behind their pathetic military escort. Look at them, Vextar said to his officers. They think 6 small warships can protect those giant cargo haulers. They have no idea how outmatched they are. His intelligence officer was studying the human formation on the tactical display. Sir, the civilian ships are also moving. They seem to be repositioning themselves. Trying to run, Vextar said with confidence. But those big ships are slow. They cannot escape. He turned to his weapons officer. Prepare to fire a warning shot. Target the largest civilian vessel. Show them what happens when they resist the HFY Confederation. The target was the mining ship Iron Mountain. Captain Kim Miho's vessel was nearly 2 kilometers long and filled with equipment for asteroid mining operations. It looked like an easy target. On board the Iron Mountain, Captain Kim was calmly walking through his ship's industrial section. Massive machines hummed with power all around him. These were tools designed to break apart asteroids the size of small mountains. Captain, called his chief engineer. The aliens are targeting us with their weapons. Kim nodded. Standard procedure. They want to scare us. He activated the ship's communication system. All crew to stations. Prepare for possible impact. This is not a drill, but stay calm. The crew of the Iron Mountain were not soldiers. They were miners, engineers, and technicians. But they had worked in the asteroid belt for years. They knew how to deal with danger. Firing solution locked, reported the HFY weapons officer. Fire, Admiral Vextar commanded. The plasma beam lanced out from the flagship. A brilliant stream of energy that could punch through the armor of most warships. It struck the Iron Mountain directly on the side, where the ship's hull was thickest. The HFY bridge crew waited for the explosion. They expected to see hull plates flying apart, atmosphere venting into space, and panic from the human fleet. Instead, they saw nothing happen. Direct hit confirmed, the weapons officer reported, confusion in his voice. But, sir, there appears to be no damage. Captain Kim Miho's calm voice came over the communication channel. HFY flagship, please be aware that your weapon's fire has caused a minor scorch mark on our external hull plating, Section 7. No damage to internal systems has been detected. There was a pause. Should I report this to our maintenance department, or would you prefer to continue our conversation? Silence filled the HFY bridge. The plasma cannon that had just fired was one of their most powerful weapons. It should have torn a hole through any civilian ship. Impossible, Vextar whispered. His intelligence officer was frantically checking his readings. Sir, that ship's hull appears to be made of some kind of composite armor. It's stronger than military-grade plating. What the HFY did not understand was that the Iron Mountain was built to survive in the asteroid belt. Every day, Kim Mi-ho's ship faced impacts from space rocks traveling at thousands of kilometers per hour. Solar radiation that would cook most living things. Temperature changes that could crack normal metal. The ship's hull was not just strong, it was designed to take punishment that would destroy planets. "Sir," the communications officer called out urgently. "We're detecting massive power buildups from multiple civilian vessels." On the Steel Dragon, Captain Park Ji-hoon was giving quiet orders to his crew. "Bring the mining array online. Full power to the particle accelerators." On the passenger liner New Dawn, Captain Song-eun was activating defensive systems designed to protect thousands of families during decades-long journeys through hostile space. Raise protective screens. All passengers to designated safe areas. On the agricultural ship Harvest Dawn, Captain On-one was preparing his farming drones. 300 small robots designed to work on dangerous alien worlds. Begin drone launch sequence. Emergency protocols are now in effect. Admiral Vextar stared at his tactical display as power readings from the human civilian ships climbed higher and higher. These were not the energy signatures of helpless cargo vessels. These were readings that rivaled battleships. "What are those ships?" he demanded. His intelligence officer's voice was small and frightened. "Sir, I think they're exactly what the humans said they were. Civilian vessels. But human civilian vessels." The terrible understanding began to dawn on Vextar. Humans did not build weak civilian ships. They built ships that could survive anything space could throw at them. And space, as any veteran spacer knew, could be more dangerous than any weapon. "All ships," Vextar commanded, his confidence cracking. "Prepare for battle stations. I think we may have made a serious mistake." Admiral Vextar's patience finally broke. The humans were refusing to surrender, and their civilian ships were showing power readings that made no sense. It was time to end this with force. "All ships, open fire on the human military escorts," he commanded. "Destroy their warships. Then the civilians will have no choice but to surrender." 43 HFY warships opened fire at once. Plasma beams and missile volleys streaked across space toward the 6 human destroyers. The battle Admiral Vextar expected to last minutes began with thunder and light. But what happened next would be remembered as the day the HFY learned to fear human civilians. Captain Yoon Soo's destroyer took 3 direct hits from enemy plasma cannons. His ship's shields flared and failed. Hull plates began to crack under the assault. "All destroyers, evasive action," he called out on the communication channel. "Protect the civilian ships at all costs." The human military vessels were brave, but they were badly outnumbered. It looked like the battle would be over quickly. That was when the passenger liner New Dawn moved forward. Captain Song-eun had spent 15 years taking civilian families to new colony worlds. Her ship carried 10,000 passengers on journeys that lasted decades. During those long trips through deep space, her vessel faced radiation storms that could kill planets, solar flares that could melt metal, and cosmic events that most species could not even imagine. "All passengers to designated safe areas," she announced calmly over the ship's internal communication system. Her voice was the same tone she used when announcing dinner times. "We are experiencing some local space weather. This should not affect our schedule." HFY plasma beams struck the New Dawn's hull. The alien weapons, designed to destroy military targets, hit the passenger ship's defensive screens and simply disappeared. The screens were not military shields, they were life support systems designed to keep families safe during the most dangerous journeys in known space. "Impossible," whispered a HFY weapons officer as his most powerful shots did nothing to the civilian vessel. The mining ship Iron Mountain slowly turned in space. Captain Kim Mi-ho had been watching the battle with the calm patience of someone who had spent years breaking apart asteroids the size of cities. His ship's industrial cutting array was now pointing directly at the lead HFY cruiser. "Cutting beam Alpha, target the enemy ship's weapon systems," Kim ordered his crew. "Use standard precision protocols. We don't want to hurt anyone more than necessary." The industrial laser that fired from the Iron Mountain was not a weapon. It was a tool designed to slice through solid platinum and titanium in the vacuum of space. Mining crews used it to cut up asteroids that were harder than any armor ever built. The beam struck the HFY cruiser's main gun turret. There was no explosion, no dramatic flash of light. The alien weapon simply ceased to exist. The cutting laser had removed it with surgical precision, leaving a perfectly clean cut where the turret used to be. "Sir," the HFY gunnery officer reported in panic, "our main weapons are gone. Not destroyed, gone. There's nothing left but empty space." Admiral Vextar stared at his tactical display as more reports came in. Human mining ships were systematically removing weapons from his fleet with industrial tools. It was like watching surgeons operate, except the patients were his warships. The agricultural transport Harvest Dawn was doing something even stranger. Captain On One had launched what looked like escape pods from his ship. But as the small objects spread out across the battlefield, the Kethvar realized they were not escape pods at all. They were farming drones. 300 small robots, each one designed to work alone on dangerous alien worlds, were now swarming toward the Kethvar fleet. But these drones had been quickly reprogrammed by On One's engineering team. Instead of planting seeds, they now carried small explosive charges. Incoming missiles, called a Kethvar defense officer. Those are not missiles, Admiral Vextar said with growing horror. Those are farming equipment. The drones moved with the same intelligence they used to plant crops in hostile environments. They avoided defensive fire, found weak spots in ship armor, and attached themselves to critical systems. When they exploded, they did not cause random damage, they targeted specific parts of each ship with the precision of machines designed to work in exact patterns. Across the battlefield, human civilian ships were revealing capabilities that should not have existed. The cargo vessel Steel Dragon was using particle accelerators designed for asteroid processing to disable enemy engines. A luxury passenger liner was protecting itself with defensive systems stronger than military fortresses. Even a simple freight hauler was using industrial equipment to fight with more precision than dedicated warships. "Sir," the Kethvar communications officer called out desperately, "we're reading massive energy signatures from all human civilian vessels. These power levels are beyond anything in our military specifications." Admiral Vextar finally understood what he was facing. These were not normal civilian ships hiding behind military protection. These were vessels built by a species that considered deep space their natural home. Every human civilian ship was designed to survive conditions that would destroy most military fleets. A human mining ship dealt with more dangerous energy levels every day than a Kethvar battleship faced in combat. A human colony transport was built to function independently for decades in environments where the smallest failure meant death for thousands of people. Even human luxury liners were constructed like fortresses because traveling between stars was just normal life for these people. "All ships, retreat immediately," Vextar commanded. "Full emergency withdrawal." "But sir," his weapons officer protested, "we still outnumber them." "Look at your tactical display," Vextar said quietly. "Half our weapons are gone. Our shields are failing. And they're not even trying to kill us, they're just defending themselves." He paused as another Kethvar ship lost its engines to a human industrial laser. "If these are their civilians, what do you think their actual military can do?" The surviving Kethvar ships turned and fled into deep space, leaving behind the wreckage of their confidence and their understanding of human capabilities. The emergency session of the Kethvar High Command began 6 hours after the surviving ships limped back to Confederate space. The Great Council chamber, built from black stone and lit by floating energy spheres, had never seen such panic among its leaders. Admiral Vextar stood before the curved table where 12 council members sat. His uniform was torn and burned from when his own flagship had nearly been cut in half by what the humans called routine mining equipment. His scaled face showed the kind of fear that came from seeing impossible things. "Honored council members," he began, his voice hoarse from shouting orders during the retreat. "We have made a terrible mistake about humanity. What we faced today was not their military. It was their civilian population. And they are more dangerous than any warships we have ever encountered." Senior Counselor Thexare leaned forward in her chair. She was the oldest member of the council and had lived through 3 major wars. "Explain yourself, Admiral. Our reports say you faced merchant ships and passenger vessels." "That is correct, Counselor. But these were human merchant ships." Vextar activated the holographic display system in the center of the room. Battle footage began to play, showing the encounter with the human fleet. "Watch what happens when our most powerful plasma cannon hits their mining vessel." The council watched in silence as the energy beam struck the Iron Mountain. They saw the weapon that could destroy buildings simply bounce off the civilian ship's hull like rain hitting stone. "This cargo ship is designed to survive impacts from asteroid debris traveling at incredible speeds," Vextar explained. "Their mining operations happen in environments where a small mistake means instant death. So they build everything to survive the impossible." The footage continued, showing human industrial lasers cutting through Kethvar warships with surgical precision. Council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats as they watched their military vessels being taken apart by mining equipment. "That cutting beam destroyed our cruiser's main weapons," Vextar continued. But to the humans, it was just a standard tool for processing asteroids. They use more powerful energy every day than we use in our biggest battles. Counselor Maysan spoke slowly, her voice filled with disbelief. Are you telling us that humanity's civilians are this well armed by accident? Not armed, Counselor. Equipped. They don't build ships to fight wars. They build ships to live in space. Vextar changed the display to show technical readings from the human vessels. Look at these power levels. This passenger liner generates more energy than our battleships. But it's not for weapons, it's for life support during decades-long journeys between stars. The numbers on the display were staggering. Human civilian ships operated with energy outputs that exceeded most military specifications. Their hull strength was rated for conditions that would crush normal vessels. Their defensive systems were designed to protect against cosmic events that most species considered acts of nature. Their luxury passenger ships are built like fortresses, Vextar explained, because humans consider travel through hostile space to be normal. They take families on journeys that would kill our best-trained military crews. Counselor Zekhai, the military advisor, stood up from his seat. This cannot be accurate. No species builds civilian equipment to military standards. It would be too expensive. For most species, yes, Vextar agreed. But humans have spread across thousands of worlds and environments that would kill us. They don't see deep space as hostile territory to be conquered, they see it as home to be lived in. He paused, letting the implications sink in. Every human civilian ship is built to survive conditions that would destroy our fleets. The council chamber fell silent as the truth began to settle over them. If human civilians were this formidable, what were their actual military forces capable of? Show them the farming drones, requested Counselor Thexare quietly. Vextar nodded and changed the display. The footage showed 300 small robots swarming out from the agricultural transport Harvest Dawn. These are farming machines, built to work alone on dangerous alien worlds. They can operate independently in acid storms, radiation fields, and gravitational anomalies. He paused as the drones attached themselves to Kethvar ships with deadly precision. The human agricultural captain reprogrammed them for combat in a matter of minutes. Farming equipment, whispered Counselor Maysan. They used farming equipment against our warships. And it worked, Vextar confirmed grimly. Because human farming equipment is designed to function in places where our military couldn't survive. He faced the full council. Honored members, we haven't been facing Earth's military capabilities. We've been facing what they consider normal people going about their daily business. The youngest council member, Yextar, finally spoke. Admiral, in your professional opinion, what would happen if we faced their actual military? Vextar was quiet for a long moment. If their civilians can defeat our battle fleets with mining tools and farming equipment, then they're military. He shook his head. I don't think we want to find out. Senior Counselor Thexare stood up slowly. Her ancient voice carried the weight of centuries. Council members, we face a species that has adapted to live in conditions we use as torture. Their children grow up in environments that would kill our soldiers. Their merchants carry tools more powerful than our weapons. She walked to the holographic display, studying the images of human ships. We have always believed that civilian populations are weak points in any military force. But humans? She paused. Humans have made their civilians into the most dangerous non-military force in known space. The implications were staggering. If humanity could field civilian ships with these capabilities, what did that say about their industrial capacity? Their resource management? Their understanding of advanced technology? We need to make contact again, declared Counselor Thexare. But this time we approached them with respect, not threats. The vote was unanimous. 3 weeks after the battle, a single Kethvar diplomatic vessel approached the human border. This time there were no threats and no shows of force. The alien ship carried a white energy beacon, the universal sign of peaceful intentions. Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge of his diplomatic cruiser, but he was a different person than the confident military commander who had faced the humans before. His uniform was clean and pressed, but his eyes showed the kind of respect that came from learning hard truths. Human fleet, this is Admiral Vextar of the Kethvar Confederation, he transmitted across space. I request permission to come aboard one of your vessels for peaceful talks. The response came from Captain Park Jehun on the cargo ship Steel Dragon. Admiral, you are welcome aboard our vessel. Please prepare a small shuttle. We will guide you to our docking bay. An hour later, Vextar walked through the corridors of the human ship. What he saw amazed him. This was supposed to be a simple cargo vessel, but everything was built with incredible care. The walls were thick enough to stop military weapons. The air recycling systems were more advanced than those on Kethvar battleships. Even the lighting panels looked like they could survive direct hits from plasma cannons. Captain Jihun met him in the ship's observation deck. It was a large room with massive transparent windows that looked out into deep space. The alien admiral noticed that even these windows were clearly designed to withstand meteor impacts. "Admiral," Jihun said, offering his guest a chair that had been specially made for Kethvar body shape. "Please sit down. We have much to discuss." Vextar sat carefully, still amazed by his surroundings. "Captain Park, I must be honest with you. 3 weeks ago, I thought your people were weak because you brought civilian ships to a military meeting." He paused, looking around the room. "I have never been more wrong about anything in my life." Jihun smiled kindly. "Admiral, you made the same mistake that many species make when they first meet us. You thought there was a big difference between our military ships and our civilian ships." "Is there no difference?" Vextar asked. "Of course there is," Jihun replied. "Our warships are designed for fighting wars. But our civilian ships are designed for something much harder." "Which is?" Jihun gestured toward the vast cosmos beyond the windows. "Living in space. Raising families in the emptiness between stars. Building homes in places where a single mistake means death for thousands of people." He stood up and walked to the window. "Admiral, we have been doing this for 3 centuries. Which do you think we have had more practice building, ships that can destroy, or ships that can survive anything?" The alien admiral was quiet for a long moment as the truth sank in. "Your mining ship, Captain Kim Miho, he told my officers that the laser beam which destroyed our weapons was set to its lowest power setting." Captain Kim was being polite, Jihun confirmed. "We really did not want to hurt anyone. We just needed to show that continuing the attack would be unproductive." Vextar looked around the observation deck again, seeing it with new understanding. The artificial gravity felt more natural than his own homeworlds. The air was perfectly clean and fresh without any detectable sound from the life support systems. The structural materials somehow looked beautiful while clearly being stronger than military armor. "Captain, may I ask you something?" "Of course. When your species first went to space, did you build your ships this way?" Jihun shook his head. "No, Admiral. Our first spaceships were weak and dangerous. Many people died in those early years." He sat down across from Vextar. "But we learned something important. Space does not care if you are military or civilian. Space does not care if you are rich or poor, young or old. Space will kill you if you make mistakes." "So you began building everything stronger?" "We began building everything to survive," Jihun corrected. "When you send a family to live on a colony world 40 light-years away, you cannot build their transport ship cheaply. When you send miners to work in asteroid fields where rocks move faster than bullets, you cannot give them weak tools. When you send farmers to grow food on worlds with acid rain and radiation storms, you cannot give them fragile equipment." Vextar understood now. "You build civilian equipment to military standards because civilian life in space requires military-level protection." "Exactly. And after 300 years of this, we have learned to build things that last. Our mining equipment works in conditions that would melt your warships. Our passenger liners protect families during journeys through regions of space that would kill your best soldiers. Our farming tools operate on worlds where your military would not dare to land." The Admiral leaned back in his chair. "Captain, the Confederation would like to discuss trade agreements. We are particularly interested in your civilian ship technology." "We would be happy to share our knowledge," Jihun said. "Though I should warn you, human civilian equipment tends to be over-engineered for most species' needs. We build everything to last centuries and survive impossible conditions." "After what we have seen," Vextar said firmly, "my people would consider that a feature, not a problem." As they began to discuss the details of trade and cooperation, both leaders understood that something important had changed. This was not a meeting between conquerors and conquered. This was a meeting between two species who had found mutual respect. "Admiral," Jihun said as they looked out at the stars together, "there is something else you should understand about humanity." "What is that?" "We do not conquer space. We live in it. We make it our home. And that changes everything about how we build our ships, raise our children, and think about the future." Vextar nodded slowly. "And that makes you more dangerous than any military force." "No," Jihun replied gently. "It makes us survivors. And sometimes, that is the most powerful thing of all." The negotiations that followed would reshape relations between their species for generations to come.